first of its kind event is happening in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, taking place right before the 38th African Union Commission Conference with high-level guests in attendance. The International Conference on Irrigation and Climate Resilience Production 2025, with the aim of cultivating resilient global perspective on irrigation development and climate adaptation. The Ministry of Irrigation and Lowlands is engaged in projects aimed at rehabilitating and modernizing our nation's irrigation schemes. The imperative to develop robust and adaptive irrigation systems to ensure food sovereignty. The ministry has organized this one-of-a-kind international conference to provide the opportunity to learn from global best practices and apply these lessons to local context. This calls water-efficient technologies and sustainable lowland development.
Despite its vast potential, irrigation in Ethiopia remains underutilized. Harnessing these resources is key to transforming agriculture and driving economic growth. Moreover, as Ethiopia has envisioned to become a middle-income country by 2030, the proper utilization of natural resources and irrigation technology can help in realizing this vision. An important challenge that has to be solved for this vision to become a reality is the question of food security and climate resilience. If used effectively, irrigation technology is an option that can help solve this issue and have positive trickle-down effects across other sectors. However, this question is also tied with the farmers, pastoralists, and semi-pastoralists of the country. The latter have not only historically been marginalized, but also underexplored despite the opportunities they may offer. The Ministry of Irrigation and the Lowlands of the country was therefore established to leverage Ethiopia's vast land, water, animal and human resources, including the lowland areas of the country, to contribute to the realization of national development vision. The ministry, in collaboration with the stakeholders in Africa and elsewhere, commenced an international conference on irrigation and climate resilient production in 2025. For 3 consecutive days from February 12 until February 14, which still is underway while the first edition of this production is aired. The inaugural international conference, themed Cultivating Resilience, Global Perspectives on Irrigation Development and Climate Adaptation, seeks to address these challenges by providing a platform for global collaboration and knowledge exchange. This conference will convene experts, policymakers, practitioners, and stakeholders from Africa and the rest of the world to share insights, discuss emerging trends, and showcase successful interventions in irrigation development and climate adaptation. The conference is particularly significant for Ethiopia as it provides an opportunity to learn from global best practices and apply these lessons to the local context. By drawing on international experiences, Ethiopia can enhance its irrigation strategies, improve water use efficiency, and build resilience against the adverse effects of climate change. Additionally, the conference will explore innovative financing mechanisms that prioritize inclusivity, ensuring that women, youth, and marginalized communities are actively involved in and benefit from the irrigation development efforts. Ultimately, conference aims to foster a global dialogue that not only addresses the technical and financial aspects of irrigation development, but also considers the broader social, environmental, and economic contexts. By bringing together these diverse perspectives, the conference will contribute to the development of a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable global irrigation landscape.
Gathered here at a pivotal moment, at a time that calls for not just for attention, but our immediate and decisive action. The challenges of climate change and food security loom large, demanding that we meet them head-on with unwavering resolve and innovative solutions. We are indeed honored to host this distinguished conference united by a shared vision for a prosperous, food-secure, and climate-resilient Africa. As mentioned earlier, under the leadership of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, and as champion of the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, CADEP as well, Ethiopia has embraced a path of transformative change, demonstrating the power of creating a steadfast commitment and a whole-of-society approach. With your indulgence, Excellencies, allow me to share a few points on how Ethiopia is about to achieve a compelling success story of climate-conscious food production. First, Ethiopia's Green Legacy Initiative stood as a clear testament to our collective commitment of preserving the environment and sustaining life. The planting of over 40 billion trees is a tangible investment, not only expanding our forest coverage to 23.6% and restore our ecosystem, but also attaining food self-sufficiency through agroforestry, impacting millions of households. Second, as part of fulfilling our commitment to enhance resilience on climate variability, we partnered with the African Development Bank to produce an improved climate-resilient wheat variety seed. In a very short period, we have transitioned from a wheat importer to a self-sufficient producer. This achievement signifies Africa's untapped potential to achieve food sovereignty through strategic investment in irrigation, mechanization, and comprehensive agriculture reforms. It sends a clear and powerful message. Africa can indeed feed itself, and all of us are here to lead the way in this direction. We cannot afford to doubt our potential, especially when food provision has become a political battleground and the global food supply chain hangs precariously in the balance. Third, in view of attaining food security through food availability and accessibility, Ethiopia launched the Lemat to Rufat, or a Bounty of Basket initiative. This program empowers communities to produce essential nutritious foods such as dairy, poultry, honey, and more. The name Lemat itself carries a dual significance. One, Lemat or basket. In our lived experience as Ethiopian and as Africans, evokes the image of a basket overflowing with produce. Second, it is also the African basket, which is common sight across our continent, a symbol of bountiful harvest, embodying the very heart of Africa's livelihood and our food system. This national initiative, therefore, is an integral part of the continental aspiration for access to safe, nutritious, and affordable food for all citizens. Fourth, these achievements would not have been possible without our sustained investment in irrigation infrastructure over the past 3 decades, with the guidance of our consecutive leaders. These irrigation projects have transformed arid landscapes into thriving agricultural hubs, showcasing the immense potential of modern irrigated farming. Excellencies, throughout the country, notable irrigation projects have contributed to the empowerment of pastoral communities, the revitalization of agricultural production, fostering of agro-industrial development, and the creation of job opportunities for women and youth. I would say that our irrigation projects are not merely feats of constructions, but lifelines for many Ethiopians, demonstrating the transformative power of infrastructure when properly aligned with a clear vision for food security and resilience. Excellencies, agriculture is not just a livelihood for 70% of Africans. It is a strategic imperative in the global food economy. The success stories of food self-sufficient nations underscore the vital role of irrigation in achieving this goal. I therefore would like to highlight the following 3 points in this regard, which I believe would generate more discussion in the coming days of deliberations. First, we need to scale up investment and financing in irrigation farming. To secure our agriculture future, we need massive investment, especially in infrastructure. In the face of weakening multilateralism and collective responsibility, as for example seen in the Baku Climate Summit, agricultural investment, especially in infrastructure, is indeed imperative for Africans. We must therefore unlock creative financing, prioritize investment-based approach, and mobilize the private sector. Second, a robust intra-African exchange of knowledge is essential. In this respect, collective leadership, strong collaboration, and consistent consultation are essential. This is the very reason we convene such gatherings. My sincere thanks to the Ministry of Irrigation and Lowlands and the Minister for their tireless efforts in making this conference a reality. The conference's continued success depends on our collective commitment and collaboration spirit in exchange of knowledge and experience. Third, we need to improve data quality in irrigation. In the realm of irrigation, data is not just information. It is the foundation of progress. Poor data quality has several consequences, such as impending evidence-based decision-making for crucial irrigation projects and subsequently stifling development and limiting accountability. Therefore, data is indeed very critical. To unlock the full potential of irrigation, we must invest in better technology, data collection, and data literacy across Africa. Excellencies, as we gather here today, let's commit to scale up our promising success across Africa. Let us strengthen collaboration, share knowledge, and invest in technologies and infrastructure needed to build resilient and food-secure continent. Together, we can turn the tide against hunger and climate change, ensuring that Africa not only survives but thrives. And we can proudly leave a legacy of prosperity, sustainability for generations to come. I thank you for your attention.
In an era marked by the increasing severity of climate change and the pressing need for sustainable water resource management, the role of irrigation in global food security and climate resilience cannot be overstated. As climate variability disrupts traditional agricultural practices, the imperative to develop robust and adaptive irrigation systems has become a central focus for governments, researchers, and development organizations worldwide. Ethiopia, with its vast agricultural potential and the reliance on agriculture for economic stability, finds itself at a critical juncture. The country's future food security and economic resilience hinges on its ability to modernize and expand its irrigation systems. However, despite considerable progress, Ethiopia's irrigation sector faces significant challenges, including aging infrastructure, limited access to modern technologies, and the underrepresentation of women and youth in decision-making processes. Moreover, the impacts of climate change are intensifying these challenges, making the need for effective, scalable, and inclusive irrigation solutions more urgent than ever.
It's a profound honor to address you to this inaugural international conference on irrigation and climate resilient production being here in the Adwa Victory Memorial Museum reminds us of the resilience, unity, and determination that have defined Africa's history and continues to inspire its future. We gather at a time when climate change is no longer a distant threat. It's a present reality. Across Africa, erratic rainfall, prolonged droughts, and devastating floods are increasingly common, threatening the livelihood of millions and worsening food insecurity in the continent. Yet, within these challenges lies a transformative opportunity to harness the power of irrigation, innovation, and inclusive policies to build climate-resilient agricultural systems that feed our people and sustain our economies. Africa holds immense yet underutilized irrigation potential. Ethiopia's national wheat flagship program has demonstrated how targeted irrigation investments can achieve food self-sufficiency. Morocco, with its Green Morocco plan, has successfully introduced drip irrigation systems to optimize water use and improve agricultural productivity in arid regions. Globally, India's micro-irrigation, Israel's drip irrigation technologies, and Australia's water governance model offer valuable lessons. These examples prove that with innovative policies, strategies, technology, and financing, we can transform African agriculture. For climate resilient food production to thrive, we must develop policies tailored to our local realities. Those policies should prioritize land and water rights, farmer-led irrigation development, and adoption of climate-smart technologies. Effective implementation requires collaboration among governments, research institutions, the private sector, and the community. A key challenge remains financing. Innovative models such as public-private partnerships, blended financing mechanisms, and climate-resilient funds can help mobilize the resources needed to expand irrigation and enhance resilience. Additionally, carbon financing offers a promising avenue to achieve climate mitigation by transforming from diesel to renewable energy-powered irrigation systems. This approach can unlock the investments necessary to transform African agriculture and build resilience against the impact of climate change. No strategy can succeed without empowering women and youth. Women are the backbone of Africa's agriculture, yet they face barriers in land ownership, financing, and decision-making. Gender-responsive policies and capacity-building initiatives are vital. At the same time, Africa's youth are driving agricultural innovation with technologies such as drone-based irrigation and AI-driven soil analysis. We must create enabling environments through innovative hubs, incubation programs, and digital financing solutions to ensure youth-led agriculture business thrive. Technology is a game changer. From real-time weather platforms to solar-powered irrigation and big data analysis, innovation can enhance efficiency, reduce water wastage, and increase agricultural productivity. Investing in these technologies is not an option, but a necessity to build a sustainable agricultural future. Distinguished guests, the time for action is now. I urge you, policymakers, investors, researchers, and farmers to commit to bold strategies that will transform Africa's agricultural landscape. We must strengthen policy reforms for climate-smart agriculture, scale up investments in modern irrigation systems, expand access to innovative financing models, promote regional collaboration to share best practices and harmonize efforts, empower women and youth as leaders of agricultural transformation. As we begin this 3-day journey of dialogue and collaboration, let's live with actionable strategies and renewed determination to build irrigation systems and agricultural policies that will withstand the test of time. Together, we can cultivate resilience. Together, we can secure Africa's agricultural future. I thank you.
The conference is expected to serve as a forum for the exchange of knowledge on the latest policy frameworks and best practices in irrigation development. Attendees will examine how different countries are responding to the challenges of climate change through innovative water management policies and practices. Topics are including the integration of climate-smart agriculture into national irrigation strategies, the role of public-private partnerships in driving irrigation innovations, and the development of adaptive policies that respond to the realities of climate variability. The objective is to distill lessons from global leaders in irrigation and to identify actionable strategies that can be adapted to various regional and national contexts, including Ethiopia and the rest of Africa.
On behalf of the African Union Commission, I thank the organizer for the invitation to participate in this important international conference on irrigation and climate resilient production. Our gratitude goes to the government and people of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia for hosting and organizing the first international conference on irrigation and climate resilience production. As we are all aware, and it was so said by the previous speaker, agriculture is a particularly important sector in Africa. It's the backbone for socio-economic development on our continent. Majority of African farmers are small-scale farmers practicing rain-fed agriculture, which is highly vulnerable to climate change. So this nexus between agriculture and climate change, it's very important because we need to have a system, an agro-food system that is resilient and sustainable if we want to feed our population on the continent. However, only 6% of arable land in Africa is irrigated, which is extremely low comparing to other regions. For instance, when you look at Asia, which has 37% of its land irrigated. So we need to change the narrative and make sure that we are really producing the proper food for our population. The Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program, known as CAADP agenda, has 3 editions or 3 decades. The first one is Maputo. In 2003, our head of states and governments, they assumed that we have to ensure food secure on the continent and invest 10% in this important sector. Then we had the Malabo Declaration in 2014, and today we have the Kampala Declaration 2025, stresses the importance of irrigation in increasing Africans' agricultural productivity and intensification. In addition to the African Union semi-arid food grains research and development known as SAFGRAD, this is a specialized technical office of the African Union, elaborated the continental framework for irrigation development and agricultural water management practices in Africa in 2020. The The irrigation development, agriculture water management framework is to get a typology, a policy, and institutional development pathway for sustainable irrigation development option on the continent. But if we have to go and track progress of this important framework, Africa is not on track to meet all the aspiration we had in this agenda. The framework consolidates the most relevant approaches to and priority action for agricultural water management. Learning from and building on previous agricultural water management implementation efforts, the framework is structured around four strategic areas and agricultural water development pathway. The first is the agricultural water management in rain-fed farming. Second, farmer-led irrigation. Third, scheme development and modernization. And the fourth is the wastewater recovery and reuse. It also serves as a blueprint to align and harmonize national and regional water management policy. To take into consideration the regional specificity needed for sustainable irrigation planning, the African Union Safeguard, in collaboration with FAO, facilitated the development of 3 regional irrigation development strategy for COMESA, for the Eastern African Community, and IGAD. In July last year, 2024, the African Union Safeguard, in collaboration also with FAO, World Bank, IFAD, Afreximbank, and the League of Arab States organized a 5-day irrigation planning and investment knowledge in Kigali, the Republic of Rwanda. This event was attended by directors of irrigation from 37 African Union member states. In addition, in the last 10 years, AU Safeguard has contributed immensely in bridging the capacity gap in arising from the technical manpower to implement climate resilient irrigation in member states. In collaboration with the League of Arab States, a total of 49 member states have benefited from the annual tailor-made practical training for early and mid-career irrigation engineers and water management experts to design and operate and maintain the modern irrigation technology. I thank you very much for your kind attention. Muito obrigada. Merci beaucoup. Asante sana. Shukran. Amseknalen.
The Lowlands Livelihood Resilience Project, a flagship project supported by the World Bank and others, is a project that aims to improve the livelihoods and the climate resilience of lowland householders and ecosystems through 4 interconnected components. In this project, resilience is defined as the capacity of communities to adapt and recover from climate shocks while safeguarding essential resources. The project seeks to achieve important outcomes such as increased production, better access to markets and services, diversified income sources, and improved local conflict management. To meet these objectives, it focuses on implementing climate-smart technologies and sustainable agricultural and livestock practices. The project's livelihoods component is dedicated to fostering climate-resilient and sustainable livelihoods by enhancing income stability and diversification for pastoral and agro-pastoral householders. This component encourages the adoption of gender-sensitive, climate-smart practices aiming to boost productivity while lowering greenhouse gas emissions. Key initiatives include improving crop and livestock productivity, ensuring access to veterinary services, and facilitating market access through the creation of producer groups and savings cooperatives. The project also prioritizes knowledge sharing and capacity building to empower communities, especially women, in adapting to climate change and enhancing their economic opportunities. Behold, the conference's first-day presidential panel explores experiences throughout Africa.
First of all, out of the major 5 global civilizations, if you know, 4 of them are based on river valleys. And they are called by some as hydraulic civilization and formed hydraulic empires. So water has been a source of even building the empire. So that's why this is a theme which is very essential. Beyond that, the Egyptian and the Nubian civilization was based along the river Nile, and the Mesopotamian civilization along the Euphrates and Tigris river basin, and again the Indian civilization into Indus River Valley, and the Chinese civilization along the Yellow and Yangtze rivers. So water-centered development has been and remains to be the central for economic and social transformation. That's why this theme is very, very important. Having said this, but what makes our era different? You know, we have rapid, accelerated population growth, resources are limited, and there are creeping crises like climate change, and this calls for a new kind of dispensation in the African continent. So the theme is very important for the continent. So having said this, irrigated agriculture therefore becomes a key component, if not the only one, but a key component of climate resilience that as a main entry point. So that's why this conference becomes so relevant, and we should continue on this conference annually in this beautiful country as a major way to transform our continent. Let me proceed to ask basic questions to each one of our distinguished panelists. Your Excellency, President Jakaya Kikwete, you spearheaded one of Tanzania's landmark initiative called Southern Agricultural Growth Corridor of Tanzania, SAGCOT, which has continued since then. And this initiative brings the smallholder farmer, the public sector, and the private sector together to develop the corridor in partnership. Then why was it necessary to launch this initiative in the first place? And how has it taken irrigation at the centerpiece in these development endeavors as a vital means for climate resilience? And Tanzania has made consecutive decisions, not only in your time, but in President Samia's current leadership, also the enhanced water basin central development, including its vast Great Lakes. And in this regard, President Samia has initiated Building Better Tomorrow, BBT, youth center irrigated agricultural production. And can we learn some lessons from this?
Addressing the climate factor question in relation to agriculture is something that we also do. But since independence in 1961, we have had our first president came up with 2 major initiatives on agriculture. Of course, the first one was villagization, and the second one has been what came to be called the Iringa Declaration, Siasa ni Kilimo, meaning agriculture is politics. That for politics in Tanzania, we have to address the agriculture question. These 2 initiatives have actually guided the governments from President Nyerere to President Mwinyi, President Mkapa, and to me when I became president in 2005. But of course, times are different, times are changing. But there was a time when we wanted to have certainty in ensuring food security. My predecessor, President Mkapa, had taken a special initiative on fertilizer subsidy to farmers. But this fertilizer subsidy was not to all the farmers. Because in the country, despite the variations in terms of climate and rainfall, the Southern Highlands, strangely enough, the rest of the country will have problems, but the Southern Highlands, even when there is decline in the amount of rainfall they get, but they will always have a lot of rain for good production. So these regions became the granary of the country. We used to call them the Big Four. When I became president, I created another two regions, then they became the Big Six. But with the Big Six, then we also brought in the Kilombero Basin to it. So this is what we call the Southern Agriculture Growth Corridor of Tanzania. We said this is where we are assured of getting the rice, the maize, the round potatoes. Some call them Irish potatoes, but I grow them there. Why call them Irish potatoes? I don't know. So this, and now the avocado. So this is where now we said, okay, fine.
Rainfall in Africa, and indeed the rest of the country, is always seasonal. And if a country will depend on rain-fed agriculture, that means that you can only crop once a year. So everybody will move away from rain-fed agriculture to irrigation, and we cannot do away with irrigation. When I took over government, May 10, May, 5th of May, to complete the tenure of my late president, that first year, I didn't do much about to try to stabilize the country and move forward. But when I won my election in 2011, we really decided to take serious measures on agriculture. And luckily for me, I also had a minister that was very competent, the present ADB president, Dr. Additional. And it's also an agri-economist like the Honorable Minister there. And we decided to experiment in 2011 the issue of rehabilitating irrigation systems to do dry season agriculture in a small scale. And just like they say, necessity is the mother of invention. In 2012, we had a devastating flood. So sometimes you talk about drought. When you experience flood, it's as bad as drought, or sometimes even worse. When we had a major flood that we never experienced for years, no living Nigerian ever saw that level of flooding. And most of our farms are on the floodplains of the River Benue and River Niger system. And when we have that kind of devastating flood that crops died, and of course the flooding is between September, October, early November.
There are two aspects in that background which are important. The first one was to consider food security as a question of pure security, national, regional, and continental. By importing $100 billion of food, according to FAO, every year, and by becoming more and more dependent, this has a direct impact on our sovereign dimension. And having an impact on our sovereign dimension, it has an impact on our governance systems and our potential to transform. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect was that any industrialization, as shown in the history of economics, starts with sound agro-industrialization. And Africa will not escape from that line. So transforming agri-food systems is the way to go if we want to be less dependent and shape our industrialization strategies for the year to come. So we went from that background, that context, and defined several principles. The first principle was the regional dimension of food sovereignty. All our 50-plus countries cannot produce the same. If we have a regional focus by identifying food baskets with comparative advantages, we can then leverage, accelerate, and transform quicker.